Well, thank you everyone here for coming. And to the people that came up here and spoke and exercised their First Amendment rights, let's give them a huge round of applause. And to the people that are here exercising their First Amendment rights to assemble, give yourself a round of applause. And to the person walking around with the white privilege is real, that took guts to come in here and exercise her First Amendment rights. So let's give her a round of applause. Now, you know, I may be the captain of Fight for Schools, but a captain is nothing without a battalion. And in my battalion, I've got an army of moms. They're at this all day, every day. And we got a dad too. So let's give them a big round of applause. Because they are the energy that is making this thing go. Now, I happened to see an interview with the new superintendent, Scott Ziegler. Now, I do find it interesting that the new superintendent of Loudoun County Public Schools is a white male. Where does that score on the oppressor chart? Does not seem very equitable to me, does it? But in this interview, he said, well, you know, this small minority of people that are vocal, they're just not talking to the students like I am. 2 points there. One, we just got back a poll that said 50% of people in Loudoun County oppose critical race theory. That same poll showed that by a margin of 20 points, people in Loudoun County support recalling the school board. Republicans, independents, and even Democrats support it. To the second point, the superintendent may talk to students every once in a while, but you know who talks to students every day? Their parents! And on Monday night before the school board meeting, I like to read my kids' books before bed about historical figures, you know, children's books, and there's this one series that I grew up with that really started my love of history. And, you know, it's The Value of Courage is Jackie Robinson. The Value of Foresight is Thomas Jefferson. And I've been going through all these books with them. And on Monday night, I read The Value of Curiosity, which is Christopher Columbus. And the next day, when I got back from the school board meeting, my second grader came downstairs with my kindergartner and said, "Daddy, why did you read us a book about a bad guy?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, we learned from a video today in school that he was a murderer and enslaved everybody." Wow. Now look, I get that things that happened 700 years ago, when viewed through today's lens, they're unacceptable. But there's a time and a place, and second grade is not that time and place. And I watched that video, and it's not appropriate for a second grader, but the more important thing with that video was the subtleties. The subtleties where they were injecting that Christianity coming over to the New World was bad. Capitalism was bad. European liberalism was bad. And then here's why we don't celebrate Columbus Day anymore. Again, not appropriate for a second grader. And we're seeing this everywhere. We're seeing it in elementary school, and we are seeing it in middle school and in high school. They're teaching our kids age-inappropriate things. They are teaching ninth graders about rape, about group sex, things that are totally inappropriate. Now, I keep hearing that we're spreading misinformation. I got an email sent to me today by a guy on the board of supervisors, Bob Turner. Mike Turner, whatever, never heard of him. And he said that we're spreading misinformation and that the Attorney General did a report and the Equity Collaborative did a report. Well, for somebody who's going to weigh in on school issues, they might want to do their homework, because we have done our homework. And so let's talk a little bit. I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it to all of you. How did all of this happen? How did all of the equity initiatives and whatever you want to call it, whatever they want to label it on whatever day it is, happen? Well, let's back up to 2019. Madison Trust Elementary School. You probably saw it on the national news. It was billed as a runaway slave game. It was not. It was not that at all. In fact, it was an Underground Railroad simulation that was invented 30 years ago by anti-racist and equity trainers. It's been all over the country, in conferences, in schools, and at one conference in 2011, one of the gym teachers went to that conference, sent by the schools, and learned about this exercise. So what did they do? They did this exercise in Black History Month to show about the heroes of the Underground Railroad. The principal was all on board. He tweeted how great it was. The staff was all on board. Everything's great. And then the NAACP got a complaint, and then they blew it up and put these two gym teachers on blast in the national media for trying to do exactly what the school was telling them to do. And then what happened? Eric Williams hired the Equity Collaborative, a consultant that specializes in critical race theory. All you have to do is plug in the Google machine, Google Equity Collaborative and critical race theory, and then, superintendent, come back to me and tell me there's no critical race theory in your schools. Everything you based what you're doing on is from the Equity Collaborative. And then what happened from there? Well, the NAACP brought a complaint to the Attorney General based on the Equity Collaborative report. The Attorney General filed against Loudoun County Public Schools. And then Loudoun County Public Schools settled, and now we're stuck with the Equity Collaborative running our schools. Now, I'm going to say this because it's important. When we're looking at who to blame for what's happened, we got to look at ourselves. We have sat here with apathy, disinterest, and distraction for years. And that is what has happened right under our very noses. But it did take a pandemic to start to rouse us from our sleep. Parents started showing up at school board meetings, talking about the damage that was being done to their kids, the damage that was being done to their family, that is still happening now. And then, what happened next? Well, for going and speaking at school board meetings about opening schools, about opposing critical race theory, about supporting the First Amendment rights of students and teachers, they found themselves on a list in a private Facebook group that included 6 members of the school board, the Commonwealth Attorney, and Board of Supervisors member Julie Briskman, who the only tool she has in her playbook is to call everyone racist. And then, they were taking everybody, right? Names, dozens of names out there. They were looking through tax assessor records. They wanted to infiltrate, expose, even commit cybercrime, according to one post. And nobody felt any shame about doing that in this private group. No school board member stepped up and said, this is wrong, and exposed it and reported it to law enforcement. But what they did was create a great awakening here in Loudoun County. Now, a week later, the school came out with a statement that they would silence the opposition. Shared on social media by one Beth Bartz. And after that, we started the recall effort. And, you know, these silence the opposition statements and activities are not just threats. And we saw that threat acted upon just last month when they put Tanner Cross on leave for exercising his First Amendment rights. And then when the judge slapped them down and said, you violated his constitutional rights and you were vindictive in doing so, they didn't get the message. And now they're appealing it with our tax dollars. So, let me back up a second here. Take some big picture. 77 years ago last week, the eyes of this country were on the English Channel. Our brave soldiers were going to end the Nazi scourge. The Nazis, who didn't believe in freedom of speech, didn't believe in freedom of thought, and definitely did not believe in freedom of religion. They believed in hate. And we won that fight. And everyone that went there, that faced down the barrel of death, were fighting for our freedoms, for our children's freedoms, for generations of freedoms. But now, the eyes of the country are on Loudoun County, Virginia. We are the shield that will stop this abuse of our children, that will stop teaching people to hate each other, that will stop elevating socially constructed identity groups over the value of the individual, over the value of everything that our kids are, that we are trying to turn them into and make them be good human beings. But we are the shield, but with every shield, you need a sword. And it's, as we all know, the best defense is a good offense. So it is up to us. We hear the bell. We hear it. Every single one of us here has heard that bell, and we are answering that bell. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter your race, your religion, your sexual orientation. Everyone needs to rally to this cause. John F. Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Well, what you can do for your country is join this fight for the future of America, for the future of your children, so that they can live. So that they can live in a country that still values meritocracy, equal opportunity for all, the rule of law, the Constitution, and treating others by the content of their character and no more. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This is the fight of our lives. And we're going to win. Thank you.